The reactor was failing again. Commander Jox Renner slammed his palm against the flickering console. Red indicators pulsed with increasing urgency across the control board, each one warning of the same thing: critical loss of fuel pressure. Damn it, he muttered, sweat streaking down his neck. He had already checked every valve, every pipe, and every secondary containment unit. Still no sign of a leak? His fingers danced over the keyboard, pulling up schematic after schematic of the long-range freighter, Valkyrian. Now a patched-together hybrid of Terran and alien tech. It had survived 4 battles, 2 gravity anomalies, and 1 interdimensional detour. But it might not survive this, whatever this was. The ship groaned like a wounded animal, the kind of sound metal makes when it's dying. Behind him, the hallway lights dimmed to emergency red. "If I don't fix this," Jox growled, "we'll be dead in 30 minutes." He reached for the access hatch to the lower core chamber when he heard it gulp, a low, steady sound. Like someone drinking. He froze. Another gulp, then a sigh. A long, satisfied, utterly content sigh. Jox's eyebrows pulled together. He slowly turned toward the auxiliary maintenance corridor, one that should have been empty, but it wasn't. There, crouched in the dark, was a girl, not just any girl. Her skin was lime green. Her long, silver-white hair tumbled down her back, like moonlight over leaves. She wore a skin-tight orange jumpsuit that shimmered in the red emergency light, like liquid metal. Her ears were long, elegant, twitched at his approach. She was beautiful, dangerous, looking alien, and she was drinking from a transparent tube that led directly from the emergency. "Fuel conduit," Jack stared. The girl froze mid-gulp, staring. Back at him, eyes wide and glowing faintly yellow. "What? Dot. Are you doing?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. She blinked once, then twice. Then slowly, very slowly, detached the tube from her mouth and licked her lips. "It tastes like fire fruit," she said, tilting her head. "Spicy, metallic, but not unpleasant." "That's reactor-grade star fuel." "Yes," she nodded brightly. "I like it." Jox gaped. "You're drinking the reason we're about to explode." She stood up, tall and graceful despite the low ceiling, and held out her hand. "Thera, you must be the human. How did you even get aboard?" She ignored the question and took a step closer. "Your ship crashed through a nebula rip. I was stranded inside the drift bubble. You scooped me up. Accidentally." Jox's brain scrambled to keep up, and instead of, saying hello, "You decided to drain my ship's fuel reserves." Thera smiled sweetly. "You left the hatch open, and I was thirsty." He threw up his arms. "You could have killed us." "You're still alive," she said, then added with a playful smirk, "Barely." He didn't know whether to throttle her or grab her and kiss her senseless. She was infuriating, reckless, radiant, and somehow, he wasn't mad. "Okay," he exhaled. "Okay, we're going to fix this. Together." She tilted her head, amused. "You trust me? After all this?" "No," Jox muttered, pulling a wrench from his tool belt. "But I don't have a choice." She smiled, and for a moment her playful mask dropped. Beneath it was something raw. "Wounded, lost. You do?" she whispered. "But you chose not to leave me." They stood in the dim corridor, inches apart. For the first time in days, the ship didn't feel like it was falling apart. For the first time in years, Jox felt less alone. The reactor core room hummed weakly, the glow from the exposed circuitry casting eerie shadows along the walls. Sparks flickered like fireflies trapped in glass, and the air smelled of burnt metal and desperation. Jox wiped sweat from his brow. Sleeves rolled up to his elbows as he leaned into the access panel, his tools scattered around him like relics of a crumbling civilization. "Humans in your fragile systems," Thera murmured, crouching beside him, her skin radiant against the scorched backdrop. She tilted her head, long white hair spilling over one shoulder, ears twitching slightly as she listened to the ship's dying heartbeat. One leak, and everything falls apart. No redundancy. No organic fallback. Just ... Blind trust in your machines. Jocks grunted, tugging a half-melted circuit free. Didn't ask for a lecture from someone who thought drinking radioactive coolant was a smart idea. Thera smiled, showing just the tips of her fangs. It worked, didn't it? I absorbed most of the unstable compounds before they reached critical levels. You're still alive. Yeah, barely. We almost lit up like a funeral flare. Semantics. He handed her a stabilizer node, and their fingers brushed. Static. A pulse of heat. Jocks froze, then looked up and she was staring back, her golden, pupilless eyes glowing with something he couldn't name. Something ancient. Something raw. Can you hook this into the emergency matrix? He asked, his voice quieter now. She nodded, accepting the component with careful grace. I can, but if I do, and the ship stabilizes, then you'll take me to the next Terran station. Turn me in. Sell me. Study me. Dissect me. He blinked. Is that what you think? I've seen it happen, Thera said, voice low and bitter. 2 others like me. Captured, probed, broken, beautiful things, destroyed because they didn't fit in your cages. Jocks knelt beside her. Thera. I'm not like that. No. Her smile turned brittle. Tell me, what is your Federation? Do with unregistered aliens found aboard classified vessels? He looked away. Protocol says. Detain. Report. Confiscate. Exactly, but I'm not the Federation. She stared at him, expression unreadable. Then prove it. Jocks' jaw tightened, moved slowly, raising his hand and placing it on her shoulder. Not forceful, not demanding, just steady. Grounded. You saved this ship, he said. I saw the logs. You've been quietly patching up systems all night. You didn't just drink the coolant, you rerouted heat sinks, adjusted thrust alignment, stabilized power flow. I would have been dead an hour ago if you hadn't acted. Thera's breath caught in her throat. You read the logs? I may be stubborn, but I'm not blind. She turned away, suddenly shy, vulnerable. I didn't want another wreck. Not because of me. Not again. He hesitated. Another wreck? My last crew, she whispered. They thought I was dangerous, said my biology was unstable, that I couldn't be trusted. So they sealed the escape pods left me behind as the engines overloaded. Jocks' stomach twisted. They abandoned you. They feared me for what I was, for what I could do. He leaned forward. What can you do? Her gaze lifted, meeting his. I can survive. A long silence fell between them. The ship creaked softly, as if eavesdropping. Jocks exhaled. Do you know what I think? Thera arched an eyebrow. I think we make a hell of a team. She laughed soft, surprised. You're reckless, impulsive, loud, and you're infuriating, mysterious, kind of terrifying. Her lips curved. You're still not going to turn me in? Nope, he said. In fact, I'm going to do something even more insane. Which is, I'm giving you the co-pilot seat, she blinked. You're joking. I'm not. You've proven yourself more capable than half the officers I've flown with. She stared at him for a long time, then slowly she reached, out pressing her hand to his chest, just above his heart. Then I won't let you down. I know, he said, and meant it. The emergency matrix hummed to life as Thera slid the stabilizer into place. Lights flared green across the control console. The ship's groan softened, settling into a steadier rhythm. For now, at least. They'd bought themselves time. They stood there for a moment, Talion. And human watching the stars realign through the small viewport as the ship glided forward. Wounded but alive. She turned to him, voice soft. So, where do we go now? Anywhere? Jocks said. Everywhere? Yael looked down at her hand, still resting over his heart. Just, not alone? He nodded, not alone. The words hung between them like gravity, in the stillness. Something changed. It's no longer strangers bound by circumstance, but allies, partners, maybe even more. Later that night, After the ship's system settled and Jocks drifted into light sleep at the helm, Thera stood in the shadows of the bridge. Watching him, the human who didn't treat her like a tool or a threat, the human who offered her a seat at the consolent, a place beside him. She touched the side of her chest where his hand had rested earlier, as if marking it. As if reminding herself this was real, and in that moment, she whispered to herself, in her native tongue a promise, I will not fail him. Outside, the stars continued to drift by, and inside, two hearts, vastly different in rhythm and origin, beat just a little closer. The jungle canopy shimmered with fluorescent mist as the sun of the planet Rexavaning dipped behind the jagged peaks. Somewhere beneath that overgrowth, human engineer Kale Duran paced near the rusted exterior of his ship, the Ember Hawkes, eyes darting from pipe to pipe, vent to vent, trying to pinpoint what the scanners failed to detect. Ever since the mysterious girl had emerged from the shadows, Kale's life had gone off course. He had caught her literally drinking his ship's leaking fuel, viscous, amber like molten honey. Deadly to humans, but apparently an intoxicating nectar to her kind. She called herself Vera, dull, luminous, with near-translucent skin that shimmered in the dark and pulsed with veins of gentle green glow. She was unlike anything Kale had encountered in 2 solar cycles of frontier salvage work. Her ears tapered long and thin, flicking at sound like antennae. But it wasn't just her alien beauty that unsettled him. It was the way she looked at him after that first confrontation. Not with fear. With recognition now, as night crept in. Kale found her crouched atop the Ember Hawk, head tilted, watching the stars blink into view. You always this quiet? He called up. Vera slid down with a practiced grace, landing silently beside him. You humans burn such potent things. It sings in my blood. Fuel leaks don't sing, they explode, Kale muttered. You keep drinking that stuff, you'll either glow brighter than a supernova, or drop dead. She blinked slowly. I won't die. My species evolved to metabolize exofluids. Yours didn't, but I understand now. It's sacred to you. Kale smirked. Not sacred, just expensive. He turned back to the pipe she'd been sipping from, hands moving over the fittings. But then she did something strange. She reached forward, gently placing her hand on his forearm. His breath caught. I didn't mean to harm your machine, she said quietly. I only needed the memory. My body, our body, is retained chemicals. In our cells, smells, textures, even emotions. That leak reminded me of someone I lost. Kale turned to her. Family, my bondmate. We were separated when your kind fought ours. I was taken, sold, escaped. The words hung in the air. Kale felt the heavy weight of her sorrow settle on his shoulders like armor. He was no soldier. He salvaged broken ships, sold spare parts, and outran pirates. But somehow this woman, this alien girl who drank his fuel, had stirred something in him he thought long since dulled. Empathy. I didn't know humans ever fought your kind, he said. What species are you? Her answer was barely a whisper. Sorry, we were thought extinct. Kale stepped back. The Etheri were myths bioluminescent nomads, hunted for their regenerative DNA. It was said a single vial of their blood could regrow limbs, cure plagues, even reprogram the genetic flaws of entire colonies. If Varia was truly Ethari, then every bounty hunter and slaver in the quadrant would kill for her. As if sensing his thoughts, Varia spoke again. You can turn me in? I would understand. Your ship is damaged. Your supplies are low. My blood could buy you a new life. Kale stared at her, then let out a low breath. I didn't bring you here to sell you, he said. I brought you here because you were crying for help, because no one should be left bleeding in the dirt. Varia blinked. And then for the first time, she smiled. It was small, gentle, like a pulse of light in darkness. They worked together for the next hour, Varia helping him trace the true cause of the leak turns. Out it wasn't just a cracked hose, but a melted converter seal. Deep in the auxiliary core, she slipped into narrow crawl spaces Kale couldn't reach, her lithe form wriggling through ducts with impossible grace. Whenever their hands met passing tools, Guiding wires, a spark passed between them. It was more than attraction. It was understanding by the time the seal was replaced. The stars above had thickened into a glittering ocean. Kale powered up the ship's core. The hum of restored energy filled the jungle, and then the hum was broken by a sharp, mechanical shriek. A flare exploded above the trees. Kale spun toward the jungle. "They found you," he whispered. Vera's eyes widened. "How?" Kale grabbed his scanner. "Low-range bioping. Someone pinged your DNA signature. Maybe from the last station you passed." I admit. The tree line exploded. 4 humanoid figures draped in obsidian armor stormed into the clearing. Crimson visors. Heavy blasters. Yarzan slavers. Kale didn't hesitate. Shoved Vera behind a crate and whipped his pistol free. His old marine instincts kicked in. The first shot he took wasn't a kill, it was a warning burst that lit up the jungle floor. The slavers responded with suppressing fire. Vera huddled behind cover, her fingers twitching with nervous energy. "I can fight," she said. "Not while you're my guest," Kale growled. He returned fire, blasting the helmet off one of the attackers, but 3 remained. One circled around, firing at the ship's power core. "No." Kale shouted, "Vera, stop him!" Before he could finish, she was already moving. A blur of light. Scream of wind. She launched herself through the air, claws erupting from her fingertips. In a single, acrobatic arc, she landed on the slavers. Back and sank her glowing claws into his spine. His body went limp. Kale blinked. "Remind me not to make you mad." Maria gave a savage grin. "Only when you're leaking fuel again." The battle raged another 3 minutes. Kale took a shot to the shoulder. Vera was grazed across the thigh. But they moved like they'd fought together for years. His calculated strikes, her chaotic grace, a rhythm only war and trust could birth. When the last slaver fell, Kale limped to her side. "You good?" "I bleed," she said, "but I'm not broken." He grinned. "Same." They stood over the fallen, catching their breath. The jungle was silent again, broken only by the soft pulse of Varela's glowing skin. She looked up at him, sweat glistening down her brow. "You risked everything." "For me?" Kale's voice was low. "Maybe I was waiting for someone worth risking it for." Their lips met, tentative at first, then deep, raw, real. At that kiss was every word. They hadn't spoken. Every truth neither of them had dared to accept. When they pulled apart, Vera touched her chest. "You've ignited something in me, Kale. Something I haven't felt in years." Kale nodded. "Then maybe it's time we stop running and start fighting together." Vera smiled. "Where do we go now?" Kale looked to the stars. "Wherever we want." The Emberhawk soared through the iron-burned sky of Rexavanine. The hull still scorched from the recent firefight, but her engines now humming with new life. Inside the ship, Kale Duran sat slouched in the pilot's chair, his shoulder tightly wrapped in synth fiber bandages, still damp with blood. Across from him, Vera stood barefoot, one hand gripping the edge of the console. Her glow dim but steady. "I meant to ask you something," Kale muttered, shifting slightly to face her. "Back on the field, that was no ordinary fighting. Style." "I wasn't always a prisoner," Vera replied, her tone quieter than the ship's ambient whir. "Before I was taken, I trained as a starborn blade." Kale's brow rose. "You're kidding? That's a myth. Living proof it's not." The silence that followed was filled only by the gentle stutter of the stars. Flickering outside the viewport, Kale turned in his seat. "Then we've got a problem." Vera's glowing eyes narrowed. "What kind?" He tapped the monitor. "That slaver crew. It's just a scouting pod. A full sovereignty cruiser is in orbit. I hacked the dead guy's suit for intel. Turns out your DNA signature was flagged for Royal Class retrieval." Rhea's lips parted slightly. "Royal Class." Kale nodded. "Yeah, not bounty, not transport. Retrieval. Like, you're the last key to something." Her breath caught. "They know." "No." "What?" Vera hesitated, then finally stepped forward. Her fingers gently touched Kale's wounded shoulder, as though preparing him for the weight of the words she was about to speak. "When I said I was bonded before, lied," she admitted. "I was chosen. one of only a few. Born to carry the gene seed of our first mother. In my blood lies the regenerative pattern that could restore my species, but only if it's passed on. Through union. Kale blinked. Union, as in reproduction. She nodded once. He leaned back, trying to process. So you're not just a survivor, you're a key to rebirth. Yes, she whispered. And the sovereignty doesn't want rebirth. They want extinction sealed, final. They'll hunt me until I die. But worse than that. She looked at him. The glow in her veins now pulsed brighter. If I bond again, that child would awaken the gene seed fully, would make me visible. To every sovereignty scanner in the galaxy, Kale's jaw tightened, and we all ready. Drea looked down, the tips of her long ears twitching nervously. I don't know if I'm carrying yet, but I feel different, like the flame inside. Me has been reignited. The moment hung between them. Outside, an alert pinged. Kale turned toward the monitor again. We've been locked. They're pulling us in. Vera's voice was steady. Then we ended here. He stood, wincing at the pain in his arm. Didn't come this far to watch them take you away. Rhea looked up. Nor I you. The sovereign dreadstar loomed above them like a moon, black and angular. Its many arms like claws stretched across the void. As the tractor beam drew them into the docking bay, Kale and Viraya suited up. This time, Kale wore his old alliance. Armor scuffed, dented, but still functional. Viraya wrapped herself in a shimmering bodysuit laced with psionic filaments. When she turned to him, eyes glowing like twin suns, he saw, not a fragile exile, but a warrior queen reborn. The ramp lowered. They stepped into the lion's den. Rows of sovereignty troopers lined the chamber, weapons trained on them. At the center stood a towering figure in crimson command robes, High Warden Lorek, an ancient Ithari traitor who had allied with the sovereignty to survive. You've broken galactic law, girl, Lorek hissed. You were meant to fade away. With your kind, Viraya stepped forward. I chose life. Kale raised his rifle, and I chose her. Lorek sneered. You cannot protect her from what she is. I don't need to protect her, Kale replied. I need to stand with her. There's a difference. Without warning, Lorek raised his hand. Energy beams erupted. Kale and Viraya moved like twin stars, orbiting chaos. He fired with precision, dropping troopers one by one while she danced through them like liquid flame. Each flick of her claw sent shockwaves. Her psionic bursts tore armor apart. Kale was hit twice in the leg, once in the side, but he stayed on his feet. Viria reached Lorek. Claws extended. He laughed and caught her wrist. You are a relic, girl. A womb to be sealed. Not honored. You know nothing of honor, she spat. Kale staggered forward, blood dripping down his armor. But I do. He fired once straight through Lorek's chest. The High Warden collapsed. Silence fell. Only Kale's ragged breathing remained. Viraya rushed to him, cradling him in her arms. Kale, I'm okay, he coughed, not dying, just bleeding. Like a lot, she laughed, tears glowing down her cheeks. You idiot, you beautiful idiot. 2 weeks later, the Ember Hawk drifted gently in orbit around a lush moon. Hidden from all scanners, Kale limped toward the cockpit, shirtless and stitched, his chest marred by scars but his eyes bright. Vera stood by the viewport, her hand resting on her slightly swollen stomach. So, he said, sliding beside her, we're really doing this. She smiled. Yes, and if it's a girl, I want to name her Lyrics after my mother. Kale took her hand. I was thinking, maybe we find others, not just survivors but rebels. Fighters start something. Rhea looked at him, her voice trembling. I would follow you to the end of every galaxy. He kissed her forehead. Good, because this war's not over. But we're ready now. Outside the ship, stars twinkled, silent witnesses to a promise forged in battle and sealed in love. Thanks for reading. This was the final chapter. A few men couldn't find the fuel leak, then he caught an alien girl drinking it, a story of courage, connection, and cosmic love.